Imagine walking through the streets of Rome 2,000 years ago. The first thing that hits you, isn't the smell of a Caesar salad or a modern pepperoni pizza. Instead, it's the heavy scent of wood smoke, freshly baked barley bread, and a very peculiar, pungent aroma wafting from large clay jars. We often picture Roman emperors reclining on silk couches, eating peacock, tongues, and grapes. But that was only the top 1%. For the millions of ordinary people living in the shadows of the Colosseum, food was about survival, community, and some of the most unique flavor combinations in human history. If you've ever wondered how a civilization conquered the world on a stomach full of porridge and fermented fish, you're in the right place. To understand the Roman palate, we have to start with the absolute foundation of their life: grain. For the average citizen, meat was a luxury saved for festivals or sacrifices. Their daily energy came from something called Puls. Think of this as the ancestor of modern polenta, or oatmeal. It was a thick, hearty pottage made from wheat, salt, and water. It sounds simple, and it was. But it was so central to their identity that Romans were often jokingly called pultafagonides, or If you were a Roman soldier marching across Gaul or Britain, a bowl of Puls was what kept you moving. But as the empire grew, so did its appetite for something more sophisticated. Bread. Rome became obsessed with it. Eventually, the government began the cura annone, a grain dole that provided free or cheap grain to the poor. This led to the rise of massive commercial bakeries. If you walked into a Roman bakery, you'd see Panis Quadratus, a circular loaf divided into 8 sections, looking remarkably like a modern pizza crust. It was hard, dense, and meant for dipping into wine or stews. Now, you might be thinking, wasn't all that grain a bit bland? This is where the Roman genius for seasoning comes in. They didn't have sugar as we know it, so they used honey. They didn't have lemons, so they used vinegar. But their greatest culinary secret was a spread called Moretum. Imagine a rustic herb cheese. A farmer would take garlic, salt, aged cheese, and a massive handful of fresh herbs like rue, coriander, and parsley, then grind them in a mortar and pestle with a bit of olive oil and vinegar. It was vibrant, sharp, and packed with enough garlic to keep anyone at a distance. It transformed a dry piece of barley bread into a gourmet meal. Of course, when we look at history and ask what did ancient Romans eat, the conversation always leads to the most controversial ingredient of all: garum. If Moretum was there, garum was there. Ketchup, soy sauce, and salt, all rolled into one. It was a fermented fish sauce made by layering fish innards with salt and herbs in large vats and letting them sit in the sun for months. The resulting liquid was clear, amber, and incredibly salty. Romans put it on everything from main courses to even some desserts. It provided that deep umami flavor that we crave today in things like Worcestershire sauce or fermented Asian fish sauces. It was so popular that massive factories were built across the Mediterranean just to keep up with the demand. As we move from the streets to the dining rooms of the wealthy, the menu changes drastically. A rich Roman dinner, or convivium, was a theatrical event. Here, you would find roasted dormice glazed with honey and poppy seeds, or wild boar stuffed with live birds that would fly out when the meat was carved. They loved to disguise food. A chef's highest compliment was making a piece of pork look and taste like a rare fish. They used a staggering amount of spices, especially Silphium, a plant so popular and overused for its flavor that the Romans actually drove it to extinction. But whether you were a beggar in a crowded Suburra apartment or a senator in a marble villa, the Roman meal was a social contract. It was about companies, the breaking of bread together. Their cuisine was a reflection of their empire, a mix of local traditions, stolen ideas from Greece in the East, and a relentless drive to turn simple ingredients into something legendary. They proved that, with enough garlic, vinegar, and a little bit of fermented fish sauce, you can build a culture that the world will never forget. History is often told through battles and emperors, but it's truly felt through the things people tasted and the recipes they passed down. Understanding these flavors helps us feel closer to the people who walked those ancient stones so long ago. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the kitchens of the past, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to help us bring more of these stories to light. Your support helps the hearth fire keep burning. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time here at HistoryHearth.